countdown is on.
Once again, Iowa will punt the ball away. Did pick up their second first down of the night on that drive. Fair catch, ball loose, inside the 5. Nebraska dives on it. Iowa got it. Second down, 13. Jackson Stratton starts the fourth quarter, 5 out of 11. Out of the backfield, Caleb Johnson. Breaking tackles, moving defenders, and still going. Caleb Johnson, sprint for the end zone. But he will win. Touchdown, Iowa. Iowa in trouble. Down he goes. Snap, hold, kick. Got it. Hawks win.
It's time for 25 teams in 25 Grums.
You know, there were 12 games last year in the regular season, and Iowa played 13 if you count the bowl game. Yeah. So many games you could have picked highlights from.
A lot of games.
Those all sounded like very familiar plays from a certain game that happened on Black Friday. That's just me, however. A guy who was there to call it. And joining us in the stream, making Nick a perfect 25 for 25 on guests this year, the voice of the Hawkeyes and namesake of a bar in Dubuque, Iowa, Gary Dolphin. How you doing, Gary? Uh-oh, did you mute him? Did you mute Gary?
Oh, no.
Oh, Gary, it sounds like they're...
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Something's going on here.
Oh, no.
Where's the sound, Nick? You broke him.
Oh, no. Oh, there he is.
Oh,
hey,
there
Gary.
He is. Hi, Gary.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
Okay. And I didn't realize Nick was going for a perfect 10 here, or 25 for 25, because I'm very archaic and caveman when it comes to trying to figure out electronics, especially for my office here in my house.
Yeah, but you've
in
done
Eastern
great.
Iowa. But I just followed the instructions and heard your guys' programming, so we're good. But yeah, that game was so typical of how Iowa and Nebraska have played. At least the last 10, 12, 15 years. I remember the Hawks with a 2-touchdown or a 2-score lead in Iowa City at Kinnick just a few years back, 2012, I believe. Nebraska ran a punt back for a touchdown late in the game, got the ball back, drove down, and got it to overtime, and then won it in overtime. Kirk Ferentz is still irritated about that game. He'll bring it up every now and then. I mean, he has got a mind as sharp as a tack. He doesn't forget anything. Doesn't forget great victories, but he certainly doesn't forget excruciating losses. I'm guessing every coach has their favorite moments and down moments like that.
Well, Gary, I don't know if you know this. That's the last time Nebraska has picked up a first down in overtime. Since then, they are 0 for 8 in overtime games and 0 first down. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, so if they go to overtime, you could use that on the broadcast this year. Gary, I don't recall an offseason where the quarterback of the Hawkeyes was as big of a story as Mark Gronowski has been over the last X amount of months since they were able to land him out of the transfer portal. He has often been referred to over this offseason as the best quarterback that the Hawkeyes have had in, and then people put in X amount of years. Sometimes they're going all the way back to 2002 and Brad Banks. I wonder if you feel that he can be that good, that impactful of a quarterback in 2025.
I do. Now, as impactful as Brad Banks, I mean, he was a Heisman runner-up to a guy named Carson Palmer. I don't know. I will tell you this, he's 6'3", 230 pounds. What I like is he's a fifth-year guy. So he's been around the block. He's won 2 national championships at South Dakota State. But even more insightful from my view is he's thrown for over 10,000 yards. He's scored 133 touchdowns. So the guy knows north and south. He knows how to get to the scorer's table, and that's what's most impressive. As for is FCS even be compared to Division I? Well, over here in this part of the state of Iowa, I followed Bo Ryan for his entire career at UW Platteville. He won 4 Division III national championships, and that turned out pretty good for Bo, as we all know at Wisconsin and UW Milwaukee. Ben McCullum has won 4 national championships at the Division II level at Northwest Missouri State, and I'm sure Fred Hoiberg would tell you that if you win 4 national titles, I don't care what level you're at, you're good. So I would say the same thing about Gronowski. He carries himself like a quarterback should. He's confident, doesn't shoot his mouth off, he doesn't brag up and down, but the guy knows how to get his teammates involved. The other component here, guys, is this might be the deepest receivers room that Iowa's had in a decade. But as for the quarterbacks, I went back and looked at my notes from the last 15 years, and at the Holiday Bowl in 2019, Nate Stanley threw 5 touchdown passes. Mm-hmm. Now he had Amir Smith-Marset. he had I think TJ. I don't know if TJ Hawkinson was on that team, but he had a great tight end. I think we can assume that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Sam Laporta was just starting to come of age. You got to have a guy at the other end that can catch it, and we've struggled there too, or the Hawks have struggled there too. But no, I think this goes right back to Tim Lester. Tim Lester has got his quarterback room now full of guys that he wanted. Hank Brown, who transferred in from Auburn, is a redshirt freshman. 6'4", 6'5". What I like about him, when he throws it, it's right on your fingertips. He's got great accuracy, and he's an understudy to Mark Gronowski this year. Jimmy Sullivan was a widely heralded thrower who's coming in here from, I believe, I know he's coming from Indiana. I can't remember which town, Evansville, I believe. So he's got a healthy quarterback room, but that's just the point. They got to stay healthy. Cade McNamara, I thought, was the answer a couple of years ago, and he couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah,
he tore a knee up and then hurt a hamstring or a lat strain. Never, ever could get untracked. And as you know, you're finding that out with Raiola, who's a terrific talent. If you can keep these guys healthy, you got a chance to win every Saturday.
Talking with the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin, as our final team in 25 teams and 25 Grums. As much as we're going to talk about Gronowski, the receivers, Iowa's still going to run the football, and you got to find someone to replace Caleb Johnson. Now, the good news is Mouton last year was his backup, but you've got another great offensive line headed up by Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker. How do things look running the football this season?
Well, I'm glad you ended with the offensive line. Let me start with the offensive line. This might be Iowa's best offensive line. That's a mouthful because you guys know I just got done interviewing Brandon Scherf here about an hour ago, who's retired, grew up not too far from you guys in Denison, Iowa. One of the great guards in the history of Iowa football, won the Outland Trophy. Played 10 years in the league and pocketed $110 million. So he, like Tristan Wirfs, like Robert Gallery, Iowa's known for its offensive line. But they've struggled the last few years because they just haven't been able to stay healthy. Now, Logan Jones saying he's coming back this year, and Jennings Dunker agreeing to come back this year, really boosted the talent level of this O-line. So it starts with those two, Jennings at right tackle, Jones, of course, is an All-American candidate at center. Bo Stevens lasted the entire year. A year ago, stayed healthy at the other guard spot. Cade Pieper, who is a mauler. He's one of those guys from Nebraska that the Hawks love to have. Norfolk, I believe, is where he's from. But he'll knock you into next week. And that's the kind of offensive lineman that the Hawks have lived through for all those years when they had the great running game. John, you mentioned Caleb Russell. It's ironic. Who's going to replace Caleb Russell? Well, who knew of Caleb Russell a year ago at this time?
Yeah.
We knew he was on the team. He was, I think, a sophomore or a junior. And look what he did, 1,500 yards and 22 touchdowns, because Iowa is historically so adept at running the inside zone, which is where where Johnson feasted. So you mentioned Kamari Moulton. Jazz Patterson's a junior. Ty Washington, who's got jet speed, 4.3, 5.40. They brought him back from a receiver position. He's the third running back. They got a couple terrific freshmen, one from Texas, one from Tampa, who haven't played it down, but they're both 5'11", 205, square shoulders, and a typical Iowa running back. So they've got 5-6 candidates. They're that deep, which is good if you're Iowa, the way you like to run the football. And Lester will tell you they run the Green Bay Packers offense. That's where Lester came from. He said the throwing game starts with running backs. See Aaron Jones. He always brings up Aaron Jones, and from there you build out. And it's worked out pretty good for the Packers. down through the years. Hopefully it will for the Hawks this year.
Gary, other side of the ball, not a ton of starters back, but there are, as always, going to be players that have been developing for the last few years. There's some new transfers as well. I'm curious, what are you most and least confident in on that side of the ball?
They're lacking depth at defensive tackle, but Aaron Graves is a returning All-American. Graves and the two defensive ends are phenomenal. I won't bring up Max Llewellyn. I know what kind of headache he created at the end of that game last year, but Llewellyn, Ethan Hurkett, and Graves all were north of 6 sacks. So they spread the wealth around. All those three of those guys are back. I was reading an article the other day where Iowa's defensive line is ranked, I think, 3rd best returning in the Big Ten. That's a mouthful with 18 teams. Y.A. Black, he's playing in the league, but they brought in a kid that I know Nebraska was very interested in, Bryce Hawthorne, also from South Dakota State. And he will plug that other tackle position, at least for the time being. They brought in as you guys know, Iowa, Kirk doesn't really get into the transfer portal that much. I think they brought in 7 kids this year. 2 of them were defensive tackles who they really like, a kid from Central Michigan and Hawthorne from South Dakota State. So I think they'll be okay there. Your point about great players leaving, new ones coming in is well taken. I mean, I remember we were all hand-wringing when Cooper DeSheen decided to leave a year early. Jack Campbell, my goodness, Jay Higgins came out of nowhere and became a consensus All-American. Sebastian Castro, they lost 3 All-American linebackers last year. Nick Jackson, right. Higgins, and Castro. But they've got replacements. They have 3 redshirt freshmen that you've never heard of who are all Iowa farm kids and just mean as the day is long. So they'll be okay there. The secondary, I'm a little concerned about the corners. Deshaun Lee and TJ Hall have been around a couple of years, but they need to take that next step. The X-Man Xavier Wampa's in the back end. He could be an All-American. I think they'll be okay. I mean, and Phil Parker we trust. You know that guy's outstanding all his career.
Gary, we wrap up each of these previews with some rapid-fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Nick, hit it.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
You do not throw rocks at a man who's got a machine gun.
Rapid fire.
Who is the most important player this year?
For Iowa?
Yep.
Oh, absolutely the quarterback, Mark Gronowski. It starts with the quarterback.
Who is the player you're most interested to see how they contribute?
Kid named Zach Lutmar. That's a football name. He's from Rock Rapids. And they've inserted him into that safety rotation. He is a headhunter. I mean, he's an assassin. What
is the floor of expectation this year for Iowa?
Brutal schedule, obviously, at Nebraska, at Wisconsin, at USC, Penn State, and Oregon. And Minnesota, and come to Iowa City. And we go to Iowa State in 2 weeks. If you win 9 games on that schedule, to me, you're a wild card. In the playoffs.
I would agree. What's the thing you love most about this year's team?
The lines. They have a highly ranked offensive line, highly ranked defensive line. When you can control the line of scrimmage, you got a chance to win every Saturday out.
Biggest worry you have about this team?
Biggest worry I have are the corners, the secondary in general. They got a couple of outstanding players back there. But Phil Parker was a defensive secondary coach when he came to Iowa. He loves the kids that he's recruited. They fit his system. I think they'll be okay, but they got to stay healthy back there. There's not a lot of depth in that cornerback position. What percentage chance do you give Iowa of beating Nebraska again? I really have to go there?
You could fudge it and just say 50.
Hey, Iowa was plus 12 in turnovers last year. They seemingly are plus double figures every year in turnovers. So I'll say it'll end on a turnover, and I won't predict who will get the turnover, but I'm pulling for the Hawks, even at tough Memorial Stadium. What's your regular season record prediction for Iowa? I'll go with 9 wins. Excuse me, 9-3, and a bowl game. But hopefully 9 wins is good enough for that playoff position. Who's your pick to win the Big Ten? Oh, boy. Ohio State has got so much talent every year, and they lost a ton off that. But, you're a returning national champion. I'll go with the Buckeyes again, unless the Hawks sneak in there. And do you have 3 teams you like to win the national title? Well, I think it'll be a bounce back year for Georgia. Not that last year was a failure. So I'll put Georgia in there. I'll put Ohio State in there. Of course, I'm a Big Ten guy. So my third team, Alabama always scares me, but I think it'll be. Don't sell Oregon short. Oregon will have a ton of talent. They got Phil Knight out there, man. They'll bring players in. So I'll go Oregon, Ohio State, and Georgia.
All right. Gary Dolphin, the voice of the Hawkeyes. Gary, have a great season. And I know we'll be talking again here in about 3 months.
We'll see you in Lincoln, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Gary.
There he is, Gary Dolphin.
You bet, guys.
Wrapping up 25 teams in 25 Grums.